Welcome to the Cultivating Health Equity Stories podcast. In this captivating series, we delve into the heart of health equity, sharing stories that illuminate the path toward a fairer, more inclusive healthcare landscape. Our mission is to amplify voices, challenge norms, and inspire change. Here is your host, Dr. Throy Campbell, a research scientist on health equity issues.
Today we have an extraordinary guest joining us, Stacey Edwards. Stacey wears many hats. She's a devoted wife, a loving mother to two incredible children, Jonathan and Jadon, and a pillar of strength in her community. Stacey has been a nurse for over 25 years, but her journey has been anything but ordinary. Stacey has faced cancer head-on, not once, but twice. And now, as she battles through a third round of this relentless disease, she's here to share her story with all of us. Hello, Stacey. How are you? I'm so happy to have you on the show for you to tell of your journey. How is it going?
Hi, Troy. It's going. It's going. To God be the glory.
To God be the
Yes.
glory. Yeah,
Each day is an opportunity, and so I'm grateful for that.
I like that. Each
Yeah.
day you're grateful to be alive, to be here,
Yeah.
to be with family.
Many have not made it to another day, even without cancer being, looming over their heads. So
Yeah.
it is another opportunity that God has blessed me with. God blessed you with,
Yes.
So I'm grateful forever.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit. So, Stacey, I want you to talk about your story. And full disclosure, I know Stacey for decades now, for years now, and we're friends. We go to the same church, and this is why I invite Stacey to this platform to tell her story, which includes, your unwavering spirit of determination through surgery and treatments, your incredible support system, and you being an advocate, your advocacy. But let us start around the time of your first diagnosis. Give us a snapshots of your fight over the years. Tell us your story.
So, going back to 7 years ago, and it's so ironic because on April 1st, just this April 1st, I realized that it was 7 years ago that I had made it public that I was diagnosed with breast cancer and that I had had surgery. But back in 2017, I was home with my daughter and she wasn't feeling well. So she was home from school that day. And I just decided to take her to the mall to just kind of get out of the house. And, so, I'm fine. We were literally walking and I felt like somebody literally just kind of poked me on the breast. And at first I kind of just looked around because I thought maybe, somebody had, jabbed you or whatever. And nothing like that had happened. And I just kind of continued having pain every time we walked. And so I decided that I needed to go get a mammogram done. And I had been doing mammograms for years, not that many years. I was only 42 at the time, so I'd only had one before.
Right.
And so I went and had my mammogram done, and they called me back and asked me to come and do, to repeat the mammogram or to do a 4-dimensional test. And I just knew in my bones, in my soul, that something was wrong. And so, fast forward to the repeat, to the sonogram, to the biopsy on February 1st, 2017, the day before my husband's birthday, we were diagnosed with breast cancer. And I say we because it's not a solo, I am married with a family, so it's a we thing. And so, I was diagnosed with it. But I look back at that horrific moment when I got the news, but then I also see God's hand through it. Why would you say that?
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, I'm a nurse. I work nights, and when I come home and I go to sleep, like I'm passed out, and that particular day that they called with the results, I was fast asleep. Dean was at work, and he never comes home during, during the
Mm.
day. He goes to work, he comes home in the evenings. And literally, when I was on the phone getting that news, he walked through the bedroom door. First of all, I heard the phone ringing, which is just amazing. And then as I'm sitting there getting the news, here comes my husband walking through the door. Now tell me, isn't that a godsend?
Yeah, you needed him there.
Getting to me one of the most horrible news in my life, and my partner, my sidekick, my support partner was right there. So that is a godsend. So yeah, we got the news. It's interesting. I had known no one with breast cancer before myself, except for our coworker. And she was like immediately the only person that I could turn to. So I gave her a call,
Mm-hmm.
and she advised me to call a lady by the name of Deborah, who is a breast navigator at my hospital at the time.
Right.
And so I gave her a call, and she set up an appointment for Dean and I. And she went through my diagnosis, broke down the pathology report in layman's terms for me. You know, being a nurse doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'm not an oncology nurse, so
Right.
I'm not familiar with the terms. I'm not familiar with treatment plans, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so she met with Dean and myself and, laid out the options that would have been available. And so by the time we met with the surgeons, and it felt like such a whirlwind, just having one doctor to now having three doctors in your life, we were prepared.
Yeah.
We knew exactly what we wanted to do. We knew possibilities, just everything. So we were just prepared. So to me, that again is a godsend, having to, this person that could explain everything and guide you through this process,
Right. That's important.
And so, yeah. So
Yeah.
then we ended up having surgery March 2nd of 2017, and then 6 rounds of chemo, tamoxifen, which is it's a chemo agent, but it's a hormone replacement or hormone suppressor, excuse me, that people with certain types of breast cancer have to be on for a certain number of years to help reduce that risk of it returning.
Right.
So that's the first half of the story. Any questions?
Or the first piece of it. So you fully recovered as far as you know, and you went on back to your your life.
So you say go
I'm
back
putting
to
words in your
life.
mouth here. Right. I'm putting words in your mouth.
So
Yeah.
after that initial treatment, chemo and everything, we do, well, my treatment plan, and just know that every treatment plan is different. Every physician has a different plan for their patients,
Right.
even with it being the same type of cancer. But my treatment plan included every 3 months I would go for labs, and based on those labs, they would check my white count to check if I had infections. They would check my chemistry levels to see if my potassium, my labs were fine. I would also check tumor markers, and those tumor markers, if they were elevated from the normal, then your physician would now want to probably do a CAT scan to see if something is going on, or a PET scan to see if something is going on.
Right.
So for like 2 years, every 3 months, I lived in 3 month cycles of getting labs done. And then I graduated to 4 months. I was kind of pushing it to 6 months, but he said, slow your horses, girl. Let's just be, slow, because my cancer was considered an aggressive type. And so we kept a very close eye on it.
Can you say what type?
Um,
I know it's breast cancer, but can you
it
be specific?
was, it's interesting. You'd think that you would never forget certain things, but mine was invasive ductal carcinoma, which means that it was no longer capsulated, because it can be fully capsulated, can be out of the capsule, can be throughout the body. Mine was out of the capsule. So invasive, meaning that it could be anywhere else in my body.
Right.
But life never goes back to the same, Troy.
Right. Cannot.
At least I don't think that. Somebody else may believe that, especially if they go back to looking the way they did, and there are no visible signs of what you've been through.
Right.
My hair never grew back. And I shouldn't say never. It grew back around the edges, but nothing really here. Not sexy, as I like to say. And so I struggled with that. I
Yeah.
wore a cover up for 5.5 years. 5.5 years. There were times when I would just get frustrated and just say, Dean, just shave it off. But for the most part, I always wear a cover up to work, to church, a scarf. It was hard.
Yeah.
But, I wore it. I was never ashamed.
Yeah.
A little scared sometimes, a little sad. I mean, it's a reality, as a woman, that power, that choice of wanting to have my hair was taken away from me.
Right.
And I no longer had a choice. I hasten to say, others may say, well, just wear a wig. I'm not a wig person.
You're not a weak person.
No, I'm not a wig person. So kudos to the person that can wear a wig. I don't find it offensive. It's just me. Remember, we're all different. We all have our experiences, and a wig was just not me.
Not you.
And so I never wore a wig.
Well, we're going to talk more about you and your personality, and it's coming across strongly already. But take us back now. So you're doing you were at 4 month period with checks, and because you're taking us to your second bout with cancer.
So the second bout happened in 2022, literally on the eve of my 5-year anniversary of being considered cancer-free.
I hope everyone is starting to receive Stacey, because you remember dates. She's good at names and
yes,
right.
Literally,
dates.
yeah. But this is my reality, and it's not meant to cause, how would I say? It's not meant to be sad.
Yeah.
There are sad moments, but life, I don't know, I'm still here. So on the eve of my 5-year anniversary, I noticed that I had some bleeding, almost like a period. And I hadn't had a period since I've had, chemo 5 years before. And so went to the physician, went to my OB, and we did an ultrasound, and ultrasound showed some abnormalities. And then we did a biopsy, and then the biopsy came back with me having uterine cancer.
Yeah.
And I told myself, you're not going to cry, girl. You're not going to cry. But I did cry, but it's okay. Crying. Tears are a language God understands.
And that's so you're just funny.
Yeah. And so that was pretty hard,
Yeah.
With the first cancer diagnosis, we told our kids were 10 and 11 at the time. And so now they are, 15, 16? And so we were like, oh my gosh. But, I have a stalwart of a husband, and in my weakness or my moments that I just cannot express myself, he's there. And so we now had to share this news again with our children. So we did. And so with the second diagnosis, let's go back a little bit. So my first breast cancer diagnosis, I was considered a stage 1, which is low risk, but cancer comes in stages and grades. And so I was a stage 1, but a grade 3, which even though it's a low staging, it's a grade 3, which is aggressive. It only comes in like 1, 2, and 3. So it was pretty aggressive. So this uterine cancer now was a stage 3. And so it too is also a very aggressive cancer. And so when we met with the gynae oncologist, she explained that to us. So I mean, I do things big, Troy. Like, you know, when they say go big or go home, I guess that's what I do. So I just do things big. And so, yes, the second diagnosis required another surgery,
Yeah.
and chemo was again recommended.
Right.
And so we went down that path again in 2022.
Yeah. Must have been difficult. The treatment, the side effects, you know.
Yeah. I can't talk about one treatment without kind of going back to the other,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're kind of all different. With my first one, when I first started chemo, I really thought I was going to be able to work and have treatments because I've seen other people do it.
Right.
And unfortunately, that was just not the case. I was kind of out of work for about 8 months, just from the side effects and just everything that had happened during that time. Second time, it was the same drugs. However, the after the very first round of chemo, I started to develop something called neuropathy, which
Mm.
is numbness and tingling in the hands and the feet. And I couldn't believe that it was happening after just the first round,
Right.
because I'd had it with my first chemo 5 years before, but it started happening maybe by the third or fourth round of treatment. And so I did not expect it the first time after the first round. So she put me on meds to help with that, and then she also changed one of my drugs, chemo drugs. And so, we just went on. Um, Side effects, everybody has different side effects. And I'll hasten to say this, back in the days when people went on chemo, like you thought that it was always the vomiting over the toilet, the
Mm.
diarrhea. Some people may still have that, but I can tell you that they have made such vast improvements with chemo drugs, also anti-nausea medications, and just a combination of medications to help patients have a more
Right.
meaningful life while they're going through treatments. That has come a long way. And so
Mhm.
I never had any of those side effects. My biggest side effects were eating, my taste buds, which chemo does that. It
Right.
messes with certain types of cells in your body, the mouth being one of them. Eating was just very difficult. The taste of things were awful. Some things tasted like dirt. If I ate something today, tomorrow it couldn't work. And, for somebody who hasn't gone through it, it may sound easy. Well, it's just water, just drink it.
No.
Try drinking something where sometimes you feel like glass is going down your throat,
Mm.
or just the thought of some food just makes you nauseated. Being Adventist, I don't eat pork, shrimp, any of those things. And they don't nauseate me. But I tell you, if I see somebody with a crab beside me, I'm just like, ew, you know? And
Mm.
so those are just some of the feelings that you go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my biggest things. I lost a lot of weight. Um, but I tell you, I say God is so good because, this was after COVID. And as everybody else had put on weight, I too had put on weight. So I just simply said, well, God had fluffed me up because he knew that I was going to be needing that I was going to need some
Lose the
extra
COVID
pounds.
weight. Yes.
So, one thing that I did during my second battle was that I said I was going to find joy in the journey.
Mhm.
And no matter what you're going through, I believe that every one of us can find even one thing to
Right.
just be grateful for in that particular moment, irrespective of what is
Right.
going on.
Right.
So that's what I did. And so every 3 weeks, because I had chemo every 3 weeks, I would go throughout my journey for the next 3 weeks and look to see what else am I going to be finding joy in the journey for in this
Mm.
particular
Mm.
week.
Well,
But yeah,
you are a bond of joy. I can say that. No matter what you're going through,
God
you
made, I
yeah.
tell you. I always like to say God actually had a little bit of when he
Yeah,
made me.
yeah, you're like a butterfly touching and passing joy. Oh.
Um,
So you went on to and we're gonna go through the details in a minute. You
mhm.
know, forgive me.
No, go ahead.
You somewhat recovered. I use the word somewhat. I'm trying to be careful. I'm not a physician here. And I met you recently. We regrouped as family, and as far as I knew at the time, Stacey had recovered from her second round of cancer,
Hmm.
and one afternoon you disclosed to us that the disease is back, and
So
yeah,
I people use the word cancer free.
mm-hmm.
I have learned the term, which the term is out there. It's NAD, as in no active disease.
Right,
And I had mentioned before that we do labs every 3 months. And so after my second battle, of course, I was back to every 3 months doing labs. And so we would do tumor markers, and those tumor markers were tripled from the prior markers in November of where are we 2024. Yes, so
yes,
in November of 2023,
right,
when I did my labs, my tumor markers were 3 times what they were 3 months prior to that. And that can mean nothing, or it could mean something. As I had mentioned, the tumor markers are correlated with a CAT scan or a scan of sorts, depending on
right,
what type of cancer, or whatever. And so, my physician ordered a CAT scan, and it's so interesting because when the labs were elevated, I asked her if I could do a scan because she didn't recommend one. She said, you had a scan recently.
yeah,
And I said, well, how about a PET scan then? Because I wanted to do a CAT scan. And with CAT scans, there's a high risk of radiation. And so you want to be careful with that as well. And so
right,
too much exposure is not good. And she had said no to the CAT scan. And at first I was blown away. And then I was just like, well, maybe God is telling me to be patient, right? And so I didn't think anything of it. But the next day, the people from what do you call it? Chemo Brain is Real, by the way, from the scheduling department called
right,
because she had actually ordered the CAT scan. So I felt good that I was learning to be patient if that's what God wanted me to do. But then I was, of course, extremely happy that she had ordered the scan, because my fear was if in 3 months my labs had tripled, then only who knows what
yeah,
could be going on inside my body
something
if
aggressive,
I were to wait for the next 3 months.
right,
And so then we did the CAT scan, and the CAT scan did show that there is metastasis, which means that my cancer had now spread to my lymph nodes. So my first cancer, the breast cancer, was one
mm-hmm.
cancer. My uterine cancer was a separate cancer from my breast cancer.
Okay,
But now this is now a metastatic disease, which means that it has spread to my lymph nodes.
right,
So no surgery, but I had to go down the chemo road again.
right,
If I chose to, that is.
right,
Because, they give you options. Nobody forces you to do any kind of treatments. And so my treatment options were chemo. Radiation was not recommended, just based on the type where my cancer had now been. Maybe if it was in an organ, then maybe radiation, because you could actually
yeah,
radiate that particular organ.
right,
Or she said I could do nothing. And for me, nothing is not an option.
just giving up
And so, not
or not,
necessarily
yeah,
giving up,
yeah,
Troy. People may think that as Christians, that God will just heal them, or they may choose not to do,
mm,
conventional treatment options, or it could be giving up. You know what I mean? So it could be that as well. But I opted again for chemo. We had fairly good results, with chemo in the past, and I still think I'm young enough to keep fighting,
And you're
but
fighting. You're
it
fighting
hit
along.
hard.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, this time it hit really hard. My previous cancers, I've never said, why me, right? Why not me? I'm no different than the next person. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter. I'm just like the next person. And who would I want to give this burden to if I could? Nobody. Nobody deserves it. So I never said, why me? Second time, still never said, why me? But Troy, this third time, it shook my entire being to the core. It shook me to the core. There are no words to describe how I felt getting that news again. Yeah, it was horrible, horrifying.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had to tell our kids again. This time I think I was a little bit more prepared. You know, when you've gone through something, you learn. You have the choice to learn something.
Yeah.
And so I learned that I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to wait. So we did the labs, we did the scan, we did a PET scan to see if it was anywhere else in my body. We met with my doctor, we formulated a plan, formulated a start date, and this was happening during, as I'd mentioned, it was November. So here is Thanksgiving, here's Christmas, and, those are happy times, happy moments that I just did not want to necessarily bring my family down,
Right.
bring my kids down.
Right.
They've had to deal with this for so many years, and to do this again,
You
so we
wanted to at
waited.
least have Christmas, right?
Yeah. And I know that we don't celebrate Christmas necessarily the way the world does, but frankly, Christmas is just a happy time.
Oh, it is.
It's family
is.
time.
Yeah.
It's just a loving time, and so, yeah. And I remember sharing with my friends, 2 days before Christmas?
Yes. I mean,
It was hard.
It was hard.
It was very hard.
I was there. We went for a walk the evening,
Yes.
and you waited before we went back into your house, and you said, "Guys, we have something to share," and you shared it, and it shook me. It shook me. It took me a while, and Stacey, you are going through treatments. I think you're going through 6 rounds this time, and you are now at your 5th round.
Finished 5th round, yes.
Right, and I see how your spirit remains high. You just mentioned that it's really taken a toll. It shook you to your core. No one can really tell, and I imagine when you're home, it can be it's a struggle. But
sometimes,
so
yeah.
here's the thing, and I know the audience want to know this. Talk about your family for a minute. Family plays a crucial role in supporting cancer patients. How have your husband, Dean, and your children, who are pillars of strength for you, can you talk about how this journey over the last 10 years now, 7 8 years,
7 years,
yeah,
7
has impacted
years.
them and your relationship with your husband and with your children? It's a lot. I'm asking you a lot of questions.
No,
in one.
it is.
Yeah.
But Troy, having been on this journey, I have met so many people that have been cancer survivors going through active cancer treatments. I have been on several Facebook groups, and I have seen where when someone is diagnosed with cancer, the family can be completely broken apart.
Right.
Husbands leave, wives leave husband, children get depressed. It is hard,
Yeah.
So for myself, I am so grateful. I say God placed my husband in my life for me. We have truly tested our vows. When you talk about for better or for worse, when you say those vows on that day, none of us think about, well, what if something should happen? down the line? How will I handle this? We never think of that. And quite frankly, Dean and I have never thought of that either.
Yeah.
I mean, we were living, and I don't say that it's wrong. We should live. We shouldn't live in the what ifs. You can't worry about a future that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But it has taught us that we need to be aware. And so the first diagnosis, my husband, I think, was just there. Second diagnosis, still just there, powering through, helping. I mean, my husband has always been that person that has just always been rational. He is very thoughtful, methodical, doesn't go over the edge, and so I think that's a good balance because it helps to keep me grounded,
Right.
you know. Um, he has not shared his inmost thoughts with me, and I think that that is to protect me because I know how I would feel
Yeah.
if this were him. And I wouldn't want to share all my fears, my worries, those things, because I think it only causes more fears and worries. So I know that he hurts because who wouldn't?
Yeah.
He hurts for me. He hurts for our children.
Yeah.
He hurts, but with the third diagnosis, when I'm crying and my husband looks at me and says, you know, you've had a second time and a third time to fight. Think about those who haven't.
Oh. Wow.
And I'm like, I don't want to hear that now. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he grounds me, even when I don't want him to ground me. And so I know in his quiet times, just like in my quiet times, the fear of what could be, because it's here, we can't hide away, we can't shy away from it. The reality is such. None of us live forever. But with a diagnosis that you're looking at, it kind of puts it a little bit more in front of you, and so, but he doesn't burden me with any of that. We just keep going and trusting and being faithful.
So Jonathan is now, if I'm correct, 18 turning 19.
Yes, he'll be
And
19 in a
Jadon
few
turned
days.
17.
She'll be 18. She'll be 18 in September.
So all their adolescent years, their mom
Yes.
had cancer, and they're changing hormones, they're maturing. It's having a big impact on their lives. A boy and a girl. Can you tell us, at least give us a snapshot and how they handled it differently?
So my daughter, of course, she is the youngest. She is the most emotional person out of my two children. Well, most expressive, I should say.
Yeah.
Because I have to remember that each child is different. Each child processes, just like us as adults, each of us processes differently. And she just cried. Each time that this news has been broken, she has cried. And it hurts me as a parent to know that I am causing this hurt. I am not intentionally doing anything to cause it, but it is because of me. And, so she's my emotional one. She's also my very expressive one that will come and talk sometimes, or she'll write. And so she has her outlet.
So she writes and tell you how she feels?
Or she writes in her journal.
That's cool.
But yes, that's her. My son, I don't know what he's thinking. It's been 7 years and I still don't know what he thinks. I know that he worries. I know that he loves me. He expresses it by, he calls me every night to say goodnight when I worked night shift. He would come, he would rub my hands because from side effects, my hands were bothered, my feet. He would come and rub my hands, rub my feet, just come and lay down beside me. I remember 7 years ago when I first lost my hair and he says, Mommy, we love you with or without hair.
Yeah.
And, so I cannot tell you what goes through his mind. I wish I knew what goes through his mind, but he doesn't share. And in as much as I would love to hear what he's thinking, I
It
have no
doesn't share.
idea.
So
But I think he's doing well though, because as
I
I
was going to
said,
say that because, and just for the audience to know, we're friends. We visit each other's home on weekends and go to the same church. And Jonathan plays music and Jadon
Mhm.
sings. They're very active. So they have that sort of a support system away from the home. But there are quiet times when they go home and by themselves, they need to stay on top of their schoolwork. It must be a struggle.
But I can tell you that everything is God.
Yeah.
Everything is God. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So in 2017, we had we I had left the church that we were members of for 6 years. Not just to go offer my kids a different
Right.
with church, right? And so we were at a different church. So we never had a church family anymore.
Right. That was your second treatment?
The
The first,
first one.
yeah.
Second treatment, it's 2022. We
It's
were out of
COVID.
church from COVID.
Yes.
So we absolutely did not have a church family at that time. So we kind of battled that one on our own, just with, when I say on our own, as in not just us, but those few friends that we
Yeah.
had, but never had a church family. It was not until 2022, when I was finished with treatment, that in September I started going back to church.
Right.
And at first I was like, man, this church is boring. And, as I've shared with you before,
Yeah.
my aunt said, just go and give of yourself, just
Yeah.
go. And so I started going with a different mindset.
Right.
And here we are 2 years later with an amazing church family and an amazing support system. So yes, I may have battled cancer 3 times, still battling, but I've never had this part of I've never had this experience, and it just blows my mind that
Yeah.
this was out there. Like I never had this, and so it just warms my heart.
Yeah.
And the friendship that we have regained, new friends. I mean, it's just amazing. And not just for me, but for my children.
Yeah.
For my children.
Yeah.
Just knowing that even though they may not want to talk to me and share their inmost fears sometimes, that they have Christian friends that they can share this with.
They can share it with. You know,
Yes. So it's
you,
a win.
yeah, it is. It is. It is. This can be a lonely journey as much as
Yes.
you're a social butterfly. You've mentioned the importance of the church, the community support.
Mm-hmm.
Could you elaborate on specific ways friends, colleagues, just briefly? I want stories, and others.
Stories.
Give an example.
Of
Tell of a friend. Tell of.
Troy, there are so many people in my life. And I recently said to my mother, especially this third journey, it makes me very emotional, just even thinking about it,
Mm,
because I don't think that I have done anything extra special to deserve even the
mhm.
love and the support that I have gotten this time around. Now I feel like I'm about to cry, but
You're allowed to cry
um
on this show.
um you know my friend Nadine, who
Mhm.
I've known, and her husband, just the family, who I've known since Jamaica days, so over 20 years.
Right.
When they moved to Texas, or moved to the DFW area in, I think, 2016, and then this happened in 2017, and, you know, going into surgery and having Nadine meet us at the hospital like at
Mm,
5:30 that morning, and sat with my husband
right.
the entire time, because my surgery was like 6 to 7 hours, and just stayed there with him. I cannot talk about just her support.
Right.
My girlfriend Shelly,
Nice.
who sends care packages, from day one to just be there, not in this state, but somebody from college and just being there. And even still, 7 years later, still supporting, sends a song of comfort, a thought of encouragement, just always, always there. My girlfriend, Christy,
Yeah.
who is also a breast cancer survivor, just having been there 24/7, you know, I've had 3 care packages from her this time around. And it's not about the care package. It's just the fact that she thinks about me. And always, always, now on my journey, Trina, your wife, texts me every day just to see how my day is going. Troy, there are too many people. My friend Adrian at work.
Right.
This particular time, I'm struggling with my hands. I don't know if you can see,
I can see them. Right.
but
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you use, right? You use it to wipe tears, you use it to write, you use it to pick up the phone, you use it to cook, you use it to do everything. And my hands are painful, they're swollen, they are just horrific. And Adrian, every day at work, dresses them for me 2, 3 times at work. She she is just always there. This eating is difficult. There are just too many people, too many stories to mention, but
And
I will
so,
mention this one this
yeah.
particular week
Yeah.
with Adrian, and it doesn't take away from anybody else. But I've been struggling to eat. And on Sunday when I went to work, it was Easter Sunday, so she had made a dish for those of us that were working. And so she brought a little bit in a cup and she goes, try this, because, it's been challenging. And it was some pasta. It was chicken spaghetti that she had made. Don't even know what that is, but it was made with like Alfredo sauce. Under normal circumstances, I don't eat Alfredo sauce. Like, it is just not my thing. But I said, let me try it. I don't have anything to lose, right? I tried it, Troy. I went back to the break room and I held out the cup. I'm like, more. And so for the last 3 days, I have
Yeah.
eaten chicken spaghetti with broccolini and
It's
asparagus
working.
for the
That's
last
nice.
3 days. And so, it just warms my heart because she's always like, just, hey, you got to eat something, because
Yeah.
I feel weak,
Hmm.
like in my body feel weak. And it's because I know that I'm not eating. I haven't had enough calories.
Right.
And, I try things. Dean is like, do you want to try this? Do you want to try that? And I'm just like, the thought alone is just revolting sometimes,
Yeah.
And so that has been, there are just too many people in my
Oh,
life.
well, I
But
know that was a difficult question, and I see I am gonna push for this one. Your jacket, you're wearing
yes,
that
I
jacket.
was just
Yeah.
about to go to that.
Yeah.
So you see my fancy jacket? Can I stand up a little bit
Please show it
so you
off.
can see?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
What are these, Stacey?
So these are buttons,
Hmm.
brooches, pins, whatever you want to call them. These, however, represent a person in my life.
Mm.
So in 2017, before COVID, and even now, some cancer treatments do allow visitors. Mine does not. But
Hmm.
in 2017, my husband could come and stay with me. My sister, Nadine, I had someone there with me. 2022, I go for treatment, and my husband is there. And the nurses are like, okay, Mr. Edwards, it's time for you to go. And I'm like, go where? And they're like, yes, unfortunately, we don't allow visitors. I was like, what? And so I was like very shocked. But prior to that, when I knew that I had to do treatment again, I decided that I was going to wear a little dress and I was going to wear a jacket, my jean jacket with whatever little pins I had. I had maybe 3 pins at the time. And this was supposed to be my lucky jacket, like how some people have lucky socks or whatever. I just thought I was
Hmm.
going to be cute for chemo. And so when they told me that, I was like really shocked. But as I sat there, because you sit there for like my first treatment, I was there for maybe 5 to 6 hours. Your mind,
Yeah.
start thinking about stuff. And then I was like, well, maybe this pin could represent Christy, being here with me. Maybe this one could represent my mom being there with me. And so I have always posted on Facebook my journey every 3 weeks. And
Right.
so I had posted and shared that it was lonely there because nobody's allowed to sit. But I have these pins, and technically they represent someone there with me.
How about this
And when
big
I,
one over here on the
oh,
shoulder?
hold
Yeah.
on, I want to tell you about it.
Okay.
But then when I
Yeah.
posted that, my friends, some of them on Facebook were like, "Oh my gosh, I want to send you a pin so that I can be there with you on that journey." So hence all these pins on the jacket represent someone with me. Now this gigantonormous pin is one of my, can you see her?
Yeah, it fills the screen. I can
She's
see
one
her.
of my newest pins.
Yeah.
Her name is Storm. She is from the X-Men movie, Storm. And so my friend Adrian that I mentioned, she too got me a pin. However, she thought it was, just a little pin.
Yeah.
So when she got home and saw the pin, she was just like cracking up because she was just like, oh my gosh, it's humongous. But when she brought it to me,
Yeah.
I thought, this is my thought now, I thought she went, oh my gosh, Stacey, you're just so big with your personality. I just had to get you, pardon my French, a big ass pin. But she said no. She said, because I had shared some other stuff with her in the past that I'd been through. And so she said, no, this big pin was a joke, meaning God found the humor in making her send me this pin because I had been through so many storms and I can weather the storm.
Yeah.
And so this pin is extra, extra. As it's extra big, it's extra special.
Right.
Because each pin comes with a thought that someone, has shared with me.
Right.
And so I am technically never alone. And as a Christian, I do believe that I'm never alone. God is always there. His angels are always there. So I preface that by recognizing and acknowledging that I am a Christian and that God, is always there. However, these are my people.
And so let me. There are times when you're home, you're not at work,
Yes.
your kids are at school, your husband is at
Yes.
work. No matter who
Yes.
you are, Stacey, tell me the truth. It gets lonely sometimes.
So when I feel fine, like before my fingers were hurting and falling apart the way they are, I felt okay because I felt normal.
Right.
It was just a day being home, nobody's home. However, when I'm like this, hurting, my hands, whatever, can't eat. Yeah.
It's difficult.
It feels, yes.
Yeah.
It makes me feel sad. It makes me not want to get up and do anything. I mean, granted, it's difficult to do something now, but I just want to be normal, whatever normal is.
Yeah.
It's very, yeah. And so I push myself sometimes to go to church just so that I can be around people.
Right.
I push myself for work because I want to be around people, but I also push myself for work because I was out of work for almost 8 months, 7 years ago. 2022, by round 4 of treatment, I think I was out of work for maybe two months. And so I want to finish work. It feels like a marathon that I need to finish, my own personal.
Right.
I've never been able to work and go through treatment, and I want to be one of those. It just feels like
it's a marathon, but it also gives you something to do. It occupies your mind.
Yeah. It does.
It helps socially.
It absolutely does. Because I don't think about, the pain and the stuff is there, but I don't think about what I am going through. I am out. Life is continuing, and it's normal as my life can be. I do have to recognize, though, that when the time comes for me to stop and slow down, I do need to do that in order
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
allow my body time to heal and to get to that next stage. And so I
You
listened
know,
to my dear husband this past weekend
oh,
and
you
slowed
start to
down a
listen
bit.
to him.
It's hard, Troy.
No, I know. I'm pushing,
When
and
you've not gone through it,
yeah,
um, those feelings, those internal feelings that you have, can be very hard to describe to your husband, your mother, your friends, your children. You know that saying, he who feels it knows it?
on that,
Yeah.
note of he who feels it knows it. As someone who has experienced the healthcare system intimately,
Mm-hmm.
as a nurse, as a patient, what insights can you offer about health equity? How can we ensure that everyone, regardless of your background, has equal access to quality of care? What are your insights, your take on these things?
I don't know. Everybody should just be allowed to get health care.
Yeah,
The thing is, without insurance, it's almost impossible to go through your treatments. So that comes from up high.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
There are some companies and there are resources out there that helps with patients, but you have to absolutely, for the most part, have health insurance to get the best out of it. Because even with health insurance, when you look at the cost for some of these medications,
right,
it is ridiculous. And that is why some people are unable to continue
right.
once they're diagnosed, because they just don't have it. They absolutely do not have it.
There's some who don't have a job, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem. They rely on government assistance, which they should be, and then you are working class, but the out of pocket amount is so demanding, so much. It seems. Tell us about that. Because some might think, oh, Stacey works, and it's okay. And you've had it three
Um,
times now. It must have been a real
it
economic.
took me years to
Yes.
pay off my 2017, excuse me, bills.
Hmm.
Um, Still paying off 2022 bills, and here
Right.
comes 2024 bills.
Yeah.
Um, but Troy, the bills come, and you just pay what you can when you can.
Yeah.
$50 here or $25 there.
Yeah.
Um, it is ridiculous when you
Right.
look at the cost of chemo drugs, immunotherapy drugs. Why is it so expensive? How do they expect you to pay for this?
Yeah.
One of my immunotherapy drug, and I'm just sharing this, this is
No,
mine.
tell us. Let us know.
My drug, my immunotherapy drug is $30,000 per immunotherapy. Almost $15,000 is paid by my insurance. I am responsible for $4,000.
Yeah.
I don't know where the rest, who pays the rest, but I tell it like I
Yeah.
guess there's some kind of, something. I don't know. I don't ask.
Yeah.
So yeah, as a working class person, I just pay
A
$100 every
working
month.
class person with two children going to
Hmm.
college and high
Hmm.
school, and with the mortgage, with bills,
Mortgage, insurance, life.
insurance,
Yeah,
life. It is difficult, and the system is broken. Why is it so expensive?
I have
And
no
imagine,
idea. I have no idea.
yeah,
But hey, as long as you pay at $20 here or $10 there, they don't come after you. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just I just find that I cannot stress about that.
yeah,
And as much as it sometimes come into my mind, because I have a son at the university now,
yeah,
and they don't take $100 a month. They want their money.
yeah.
They want it up front. Like
Yeah.
J.G. Wentworth, it's my money and I want it now.
Yeah.
You just prioritize. I don't know, God,
Yeah.
but God, He
But
makes a
God.
way. Um, this time around, I can tell you that, my friends did a GoFundMe for me,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
just so grateful. Um, However, and this is not to sound negative because
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful, but it's literally a drop in the
A
bucket.
drop in the bucket.
But that drop is more than what I had had before or in the
Yeah.
past,
Yeah.
So I'm just
Yeah.
eternally
And
grateful
and
to be able
I
to have a
think
job and to be able to get the treatment.
you didn't give me permission to say this, but I'm telling the audience that
Mhm.
you'll find Stacey's GoFundMe
Oh,
account
Lord, Troy.
in the show notes. In the show notes to this episode. And I'll be putting all your social media links, your Facebook link, everything in the show notes for our audience to see and to contribute. Hey, look,
Can
let us help
I,
each other.
can
You didn't
I,
come here to ask for that help, but
no, absolutely not.
right.
Can I say this one thing?
Yeah.
Having gone through two previous battles, this, not, I've learned and experienced so many different things that I hadn't learned or experienced on the previous ones.
Right.
One of them being when I went for treatment. I've always just showed up for treatment. My nurses come do my port and I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
When I went in December, I was waiting, because they had patients there. And then my nurse came and she's like, Stace, we didn't get approval from your insurance to start your treatment. And I was like, excuse me, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, we haven't gotten prior authorization. And I'm just like, what does that mean? Like, I mean, the words are coming out of her mouth. I know what it means, but like, I just could not comprehend it.
Yeah.
And so here I am now experiencing what somebody else has felt, where insurance has delayed their treatment, um, you know what I mean, or not approved it, so
Right.
they can't get it,
Right.
stuff like that. I'd never experienced that before. But I went ahead and, while they were working on the back end, I called my insurance. I'm like, listen,
Right.
people, I
Yeah.
pay good money for you guys to cover me when I need
Mhm.
covering, and
Right.
so I reached out to them, and I tell you, God is always in the midst of everything, because He allowed the lady that picked up the phone, even though she said, that's not my department, I'm going to transfer you. She actually did not transfer me.
Oh,
And she figured out whatever was needed. And when she finally came back on the line, she gave me my authorization to start my treatment.
start your treatment.
And
Yeah.
so I'm just like, that's God right there. I have just seen His hand in every aspect of my life, Troy, especially in these last 7 years. And, you along with others, just say, Stacey, how can you be so upbeat? How can you be this? How can you be that? And I'm like, I am that, not because of anything that I have done. The songs that I listen to, the thoughts that I read, if I catch something, the people in my life. The people in my life do not pity me and bring me down and, oh, woe be you, you're fighting cancer again. Oh, poor thing. No, I don't have any of those people in my life. And so you have to surround yourself, as I said, with people that are going to uplift you, encourage you, pray for you. 7 years ago, my hospital, they invited several of us to do like a little photo shoot. Oh, that's something we should go and do, Troy.
Yeah.
Actually, by the way, I have a huge picture, and this is a promotion. I have a huge picture at the Sarah Cannon Hospital, which
Yeah.
is up by Medical City, Plano.
Mhm.
Just this huge picture of me, along with like 6 or 7 other survivors,
Right.
that they had put up, and they had done this interview and photo shoot. And what they asked during my interview was like,
Yeah.
did you have a positive quote or something?
Yeah.
And I just simply said, sometimes you individuals, sometimes you have to find that it factor, that IT factor
Yeah.
within yourself. You won't always have somebody, an external person, out there encouraging you. You have to want it for yourself. It's kind of like a race, whatever you're doing in life.
Right.
You have to want it for yourself.
Right.
And so I want to live. I want to be happy.
Right.
Yes, some days it's overcast, the rain falls, but the rain doesn't fall forever.
Yeah.
Even in Noah's days, it stopped.
There's a morning coming.
Yes. And so I love me. I love life, and life has not always been good to me, but it's still my life, and I am going to make the most of it and the best of it while I am here.
You are
But
such a
yeah,
good guest. I had questions to ask you, and you just told me I was going to ask for your message of hope. Your last word, you just gave it to me. Stacey, you're an important person to so many people, and you are an advocate.
thank you.
Your story goes a far way. You've exposed yourself. You've showed your human side, and we appreciate what you've shared with us today. We're here for you as a family, for your children, and you're gonna win this. You've already won.
Yes.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best. Again, my friends, we have all of Stacey's social media and GoFundMe accounts and everything in the show notes. And friend her on Facebook, send her a nice message, encourage her along, because she has encouraged a lot of us.
Can I say this, Troy? It's not always each journey. I think one of the questions you had asked was, how can people support others that are battling cancer? Sometimes people don't know how to be themselves around somebody that has cancer. And I have lost friends or people who I thought were friends. I have lost family members, people that just don't reach out. And you wonder why, they don't reach out. And I think sometimes it's their own fears. They think that, I don't know, a patient yesterday said he didn't want to catch cancer. And I'm like, you don't catch it, but like people don't realize
hold on. So you're in the hospital working.
Yes.
And it's clear you're dealing with cancer, perhaps because your hair is not there.
And we should not even assume that.
We shouldn't
that I have
assume
cancer
that
because you have people that have alopecia, which is no hair.
There you go. And a patient is hesitant to approach you as a nurse because they think they might catch cancer.
Yes. The patient said, "Do you have cancer?" I thought the poor guy was going to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He said, "No, I need a new nurse because I don't want to catch cancer." And you have people out there that do feel that.
That is, yeah.
But I think the fear of like, I don't know what would keep me away from somebody that a friend, a family member that has this disease that would keep me away from them. But there are people that do not show up. They don't call, they don't text. It's just, or they say, "I'm praying for you." I mean, if I don't know that you're praying for me, how does that help me? I know that people can pray for you without you knowing, but as a friend, right? Why would you not reach out to them and check in? How are you feeling? How are you doing? I am praying for you. I think too many times we just use that as a little Band-Aid.
Right.
They don't want to, I don't know, they don't want to face you with what you're facing. But I believe that if I were sick unto my deathbed, that it may be challenging to see me in that frame, right? Or to see others, But when you have somebody that's going through something, you have to be there for them. You have to support them. And support comes in simply just a text message.
Right.
Just to check in. I had COVID back in 2022, I think. No, 2019, oh gosh, I don't even know. 2020, I think.
Right.
And one of my girlfriends came to my house, found out where I lived, right? And dropped off a little thing with teas and a teacup and a little get well card.
Nice. Nice.
I'm not saying that you have to do that as people out there, but I tell you, when it's a lonely journey, Troy, knowing that I am sick, I have an illness, you know, and the people that are supposed to be closest to you just somehow just chop you off.
Yeah.
So I just encourage people,
To
whatever
support
your
you.
relationships are, yes,
Right.
to just continue reaching out to your friends. Be
Right.
intentional.
Be intentional.
Be intentional. That's my word. Intentional.
All right. And that's your word for the day. Be intentional.
Yes.
And we thank you for being so intentional on this show and telling us great details that are so helpful to so many people. We're praying for you, Stacey. We're here to support you.
Oh, I know you're praying.
And we love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
conversation. And
Thanks for this opportunity.
yes, take care. Thank you for watching the Health Equity Stories podcast episode with Stacey Edwards. I am your host, Troy Campbell. I wanted to come back and reflect on the conversation between Stacey and myself. There are many who are struggling with this disease, this dreaded disease in different shapes and forms. And I wanted to come back and when you or someone you love receives a cancer diagnosis, the shockwaves can disrupt life, work, and relationships. While an outpouring of support often occurs, during the initial crisis, it tends to wane before treatment concludes, even before the end of treatments. However, research emphasizes the critical role of a strong support system during cancer treatment. And here's why. Improved outcomes. Patients with robust social support tend to fare better. Emotional support from family and friends is essential, but peer support, advice, and understanding from others who have faced similar cancer experiences plays a crucial role. Connecting with fellow cancer patients creates a sense of camaraderie and reminds individuals that they are not alone in their journey. It also reduces isolation. It reduces isolation. Being part of a group of cancer patients provides a different experience. So unlike friends and family who may not fully grasp the challenges, fellow patients understand intimately. And the feeling of isolation in this, when you have your fellow patients network, the feeling of isolation diminishes. It replaced by a sense of shared struggle and resilience. So it's important to build your support system and open communication. Share your diagnosis and treatment details with friends, family, and coworkers. While responses may vary, some will offer unconditional support, while others may feel unsure of what to say. I also want to mention professional referrals. If you need assistance finding support, ask your healthcare provider to refer you to a social worker, a counselor, a patient navigator, or some relevant support group. So remember, a strong support system not only reduces stress, but also allows you to focus on healing and navigating the complexities of cancer treatment. You're not alone in this journey. Reach out and build connections. And I want to say this platform, cultivatehealthequity.com, is one such place of support. We are building a group on the different social platforms where we can interact and support each other. Also, if you like to share your story about your health experience, your health equity experience, please go to our website again, cultivatehealthequity.com, and register to be a guest. We would like to hear from you. We'd like to hear your stories. Thank you for watching this episode, and thank you for all your support. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Cultivating Health Equity Stories. Remember, our mission is to amplify voices, challenge norms, and inspire change. Go to cultivatehealthequity.com, sign up on our email list, subscribe for future episodes, and find the resources mentioned in the show notes. Until next time.